Hi everyone, my name is Haley White and I'm a part-time English instructor here at Golden West. Throughout this academic year, myself, Dawn Brooks, Ronza Husari, Noah Levin, and Shadarupa Ray participated in a program called Open for Anti-Racism, or OFAR for short. And we wanted to share with you a brief overview of what the program entailed and what each of us have been working on throughout the semester. So what is OFAR? OFAR is a program that is led by the Community College Consortium for Open Educational Resources and the College of Canyons. It brings faculty together from community colleges across the state and provides training on how OER and open pedagogy can be used to make teaching anti-racist. We are a part of the 5th cohort of OFAR, and throughout each cohort, they've been doing research and collecting data to explore the impact of anti-racist teaching on student success. The program was broken up into 2 different semesters. So in the fall, the 5 of us completed weekly assignments in a Canvas course that helped us understand the different aspects that OFAR wanted to emphasize, like the usefulness of OER or what open pedagogy is and other things like that. We were also required to attend several live webinars throughout the semester, each focusing on a different topic relating to anti-racism. Over the entire semester, we each were working on individual action plans where we set goals or created projects for one of our spring semester classes that utilized some of these strategies that we learned in the program. All 5 of us teach in different disciplines, so each of our action plans are definitely very different. This semester, the spring, was very busy for the program. Once a month, we attended additional live webinars and had meetings with our mentor. The mentor is somebody who had already taken the OFAR program and returned to participate as a mentor. We still participated in that asynchronous Canvas course, really just giving everyone updates on how our individual action plans went. And at this point, at the end of the semester, all of us have implemented our action plans, and in a bit, we'll all tell you about our projects and how they went throughout the semester. And coming up, we have a final showcase with the program where we will present these projects to all of the other cohorts from different community colleges. So anti-racism doesn't just mean not racist. According to the National Action Committee on the Status of Women International Perspectives, Women in Global Solidarity, anti-racism is the active process of identifying and eliminating racism by changing systems, organizational structures, policies, and practices and attitudes so that power is redistributed and shared equitably. It goes beyond our own personal beliefs. Yes, we all need to eliminate any kind of racist ideologies or ideas within ourselves. The work starts there. But anti-racism is about looking outside of the self and identifying issues within the system that we engage with every day. And education is absolutely included in this. So now we know what anti-racism means, but how do we practice anti-racism? First and foremost, we need to educate ourselves. What policies in the education system negatively affect historically marginalized groups? And what are those negative effects? We need to build relationships with others who are on the same journey as we are towards being anti-racist, in addition to those that we already see as models, people who are already practicing anti-racism. We also need to hold ourselves and others accountable. This is often easier said than done because we don't often like to admit or face our shortcomings or be confrontational with others. But really, we can't grow without recognizing the areas that we need to work on, and we want to help others recognize when they're taking part in a racist practice or policy. We have to take the lead on that, acting as support to others and also finding support for ourselves, of course. So there are a lot of ways to make your classroom anti-racist, but 2 that are particularly powerful in my opinion are decolonizing your curriculum in addition to decolonizing your syllabi. For those who don't know, decolonization is the process of dismantling structures, ideologies, practices that perpetuate any kind of legacy of colonialism. To decolonize our curriculum and syllabi, we have to first identify those colonial structures in the educational system and eradicate them. So for example, we need to examine the way we establish power dynamics in the classroom, making sure that we move away from that us versus them mentality, getting rid of that top-down control structure. We also should be considering the way we penalize students, especially those who have historically been at a disadvantage. For example, are we punishing an ESL student for using Google Translate to just get through the homework the same way we would punish a native English speaker for using AI to cheat on an assignment? These are all things to consider when we're trying to identify these colonial structures in our curriculum. It's also important that we are elevating historically marginalized voices in our class. Examine the content that you teach in class. Who wrote the content? Is it inclusive? Do my students see themselves in the curriculum? If you're an English teacher, are you making sure that you are assigning texts that were written by and about people of color? If you teach math, make sure to examine the word problems that you use in class and on homework assignments. Are the examples you're providing relatable to everyone? And in regards to the syllabus specifically, one thing that we can do is include a land acknowledgement. This is a statement that recognizes that we teach on stolen land and it acknowledges indigenous tribes that came before us. I normally include this at the very top of my syllabus so my students right away get an idea of who I am, what I stand for, like at the very beginning of my class. And lastly, we can include safe zone and diverse images, both in our curriculum and syllabi. Ask yourself, do the images that I use in my curriculum and classroom represent my student population? Are there more than just thin, able-bodied, blonde hair, blue-eyed, white models being displayed? If the answer is no, then you should switch it up. Diversify these images. Lastly, safe zone images are more like little stickers that you can include on your syllabi to let your students know that your classroom is a safe space. Here are a few examples of different diverse images that could be included in curriculum, in addition to a few safe zone images as well. So one of the things that OFAR encourages faculty to do is utilize open pedagogy. This is an educational approach that emphasizes collaboration. It encourages students and educators to engage together in the creation, adaptation, and distribution of knowledge. One aspect of open pedagogy is the use of OER, open educational resources. By utilizing freely accessible educational materials that can be modified and shared, it encourages collaborative learning, encouraging our students to contribute and to co-create the content that we use in our classrooms. Making sure that our curriculum is accessible is also extremely important. We need to ensure that learning resources are available to everyone, regardless of their background, location, things like that. We should want to give our students some agency, right? To empower them to take an active role in their learning process, which in turn creates more meaningful, fulfilling assignments for them, and it adds value to their overall learning experience.
Hi, my name is Dawn Brooks, and my OFAR project focused on Music 101, the history and appreciation of music. It was an easy choice for me because the way I was taught music history and the way most textbooks still present it is so focused on Western Europe and primarily German male composers. And so I knew it would be fertile ground for me to expand that recognized canon of classical music and include other cultures, other traditions that were definitely influencing those composers, include marginalized voices like female composers, places from around the world, other instruments. And so I was really excited to do that. I adopted an OER textbook, which allowed me already more resources of the sort of topics I could cover, and then I used my own experience and my own knowledge of music history to introduce a lot of those expanded ideas and themes. This module from the Middle Ages is a great example of how I did this. I recorded a video at the beginning discussing my philosophy of teaching classical music, why I still think it's relevant, but why I'm rethinking the way I present it and why I want to hear more about their perspective and their opinions and their traditions and how music plays a role. I included 3 female composers, 2 sacred composers, and a secular composer that are rarely discussed in music textbooks. And then when I started talking about chant, which is linked in music history with the development of notation in the early Christian church, I incorporated chant traditions from all over the world to show this was already happening elsewhere, and by the way, there were already notation systems in play.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ronza Hosari. I'm a part-time math instructor at Golden West College. OFAR has inspired me to make a lot of positive changes in my teaching to make it anti-racist. I would like to share with you what I've done. I worked on my syllabus. I did it, make it more supportive, more representative, and welcomes all students. I added hello in so many different languages to represent the Golden West population, added a picture of me and my baby to give an impression of an approachable instructor. I removed punitive language, strict class policy about makeups, strict deadlines, changed my office hours to more structured office hours to encourage students to come, encouraged students to build community, added a statement about that we are an anti-racist community, complete use of free textbooks and free math programs, created study guides for quizzes and exams that are detailed, full questions with answers written, rewrote word problems. For example, now I have student names from different cultures, not just from a specific culture.
My name is Noah Levine, and I teach philosophy at Golden West College. Through OFAR, I realized that I had already implemented a lot of open and anti-racist strategies in my classroom that I had learned through trainings on our campus, including the benefits of open educational resources, providing a welcoming class environment, and by assigning personalized, non-disposable assignments. Because philosophy in the U.S. is traditionally very white, male, and Western, I want to increase the diversity of viewpoints and authors present in the course materials in my online introduction to philosophy classes for my project. My goal is to increase the overall diversity in my course content from an abysmal 10.8% to 50% while maintaining 100% free materials. While I didn't quite get there, I did increase the diversity to 38%. I plan to keep going until half of the materials in all my courses come from non-traditional authors and viewpoints. For example, I had my students apply the universalist ideas at the core of Sikhism to Pascal's wager and learn about the one-drop rule for being Black alongside the blood quantum rule for being Native American in the context of personal identity. I also allowed students to submit a video or create a comic rather than write a traditional essay from any of the assignments. A survey revealed a positive attitude towards these increased options as well as toward greater content from diverse perspectives and authors. As part of a research project at Golden West College, I also collected data on the impact of these changes on student persistence and success. Early analysis suggests that there isn't much impact, but I need to gather more data to see if these changes will help close my remaining equity gaps. I'd like to thank OFAR, its community, and the team here at GWC for a great experience.
Hi, I'm Shatarupa Ray, and I teach human physiology at Golden West College. I'm going to talk about my project on OFAR, which stands for Open for Anti-Racism. So why I picked this project? Well, I wanted to deepen my understanding on anti-racism, but I also wanted to actively practice and implement anti-racist mindset among my colleagues and students. I wanted to reflect upon my own understanding and thinking and biases and wanted to find areas of growth. So my project had two main goals. The first goal was to find a good OER textbook, which I did find. But the problem is this textbook does not come with high quality images or illustrations, which led me to my second goal, where I encouraged my students to generate OER materials, which not only increased student engagement and participation, but it also helped me to improve and supplement text. And I'll show you a quick example. So this is a screenshot from the textbook, and these few paragraphs are talking about the nervous system. This material is very dense and does not come with any image. However, my students read those paragraphs and they came up with this beautiful chart which explains the difficult concept. This is not only pretty and easy to understand, but it helps all types of learners in my classroom. So the takeaway message is that OFAR project gave me practical strategies to integrate anti-racist practices into my teaching, curriculum design, and classroom culture. It helped me to create a very inclusive classroom environment and helped me support my students and my colleagues at the same time. Thanks for watching.
Hello again, my name is Haley White, and my OFAR project focused on my poetry unit in my critical thinking through literature class. The idea was to make poetry more approachable by studying contemporary song lyrics alongside with traditional poems. The intent was to increase student engagement, kind of encourage them to engage with the text because they're familiar with the songs, and I also wanted to test their natural gravitations towards culture, which I'll talk about next. But during this unit, we would take songs and poems that fit a theme for that week, like female rage, socio-political unrest, and we would compare and contrast these different texts, sharing our interpretations using poetic devices and terminology that one would learn in a traditional poetry class. So for this unit's summative assessment, students would choose one song and one poem that they felt connected through a theme of their choice, and they would analyze them together both in a presentation in class and then an essay format. The things they explored were how the texts were similar, how they were different, and how the authors used different poetic devices to illustrate the poem's meaning. The unit was really successful. Students naturally gravitated toward discussing different aspects of their culture, like immigrating from Vietnam or experiencing gentrification of a primarily Hispanic neighborhood, and they were really emotional talking about it. A few tears were shed in class, and it was really beautiful, honestly. I saw an increase in student participation. People who I had never really heard from all semester suddenly were extremely excited to share their analysis of these texts. And a student came up to me and said that they started writing poetry for the first time, that they'd never done that and have found it to be incredibly therapeutic, which is amazing. And I had another student say that they have a new appreciation for what songwriters do, that they never really listened to the lyrics before, but now they are so amazed about how these songwriters can use poetic devices to infuse so much meaning into just a short little song.